Hi, beautiful people. Everything I shared for educational free purposes, just so we can have a conversation and discuss it. Minnesota sues the Trump administration over ICE enforcement. We're gonna get right into it. Okay. Let's see.
Lawsuit we're filing against the United States Department of Homeland Security to end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota. Because this has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We allege that the surge, reckless impact on our schools, on our local law enforcement is a violation of the 10th Amendment and the sovereign laws and powers of the Constitution grants to states. We allege that DHS's use of excessive and lethal force, their warrantless, racist arrests, their targeting of our courts, our churches, houses of worship, and schools are a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act on arbitrary and capricious federal actions. And we ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces, our hospitals, and even funeral homes. The deployment of thousands of armed mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop. DHS agents have sown chaos and terror across the metropolitan area and in cities across the state of Minnesota. Schools have gone onto lockdown. Entire districts have had to cancel school for tens of thousands of students to ensure safety and offer online education because of the students and the parents' fear of coming into the school. Local businesses are struggling. Revenues are down. And some retail stores, daycares, and restaurants have actually closed because people are afraid to go out and to do their shopping, whether they're immigrants or whether they are citizens of many generations. This surge has made us less safe. Thousands of poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the state, of the federal government, have rolled into our communities, overwhelmed our local police departments, and law enforcement agencies should be focused on our public safety, but instead, many are dealing with the aftermath of DHS agents' chaos and violence. I want to thank our law enforcement officers for doing a tremendous job under very difficult circumstances. Not the people, but the federal government. Minneapolis police have had to respond to more than 20 ICE-related incidents, like witnesses seeking people being pulled into unmarked vehicles by men en masse, or ICE abandoning vehicles on the street with people detained inside. This is an unlawful commandeering of police resources. In just 2 days, responding to the chaos ICE has cost the city $2 billion in law enforcement and overtime expenses. 2 days. And I wish I could stop there, but I can't, because these poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the federal state have terrorized Minnesota with widespread unlawful conduct. They're making unconstitutional arrests and using excessive force. DHS agents have barged into restaurants asking to access secure areas, and when asked to present a warrant, which is required by law, they respond, "We don't need one." DHS agents have arrested peaceful bystanders. They have fired chemical irritants at people obeying lawful orders while exercising their First Amendment rights. They have even done so at some of our most sensitive places, like Roosevelt High School here in Minneapolis. They have detained law-abiding citizens, leaving them handcuffed for hours just because of the color of their skin or what they're wearing, or they speak English with an accent. And on January 7th, 2026, a DHS agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, leaving her children without a mother and her 6-year-old son without either parent. This has to stop. So let's be clear. It never should have started. These agents have no good reason to be here. Minnesota's non-citizen immigrant population is just 1.5%, which is half the national average. Our state's percentage is lower than Utah, Texas, and Florida's, but none of those states have thousands of federal agents swarming their streets or harming their people. The administration says that they're focused on finding criminals. Worst of the worst, they say. But many of the people the DHS is arresting in Minnesota have no criminal history. That fits a pattern. In 2025, 93% of the people arrested by ICE had no violent criminal history, 65% had no criminal convictions at all, and randomly stopping people in the street because their skin color isn't the one that they expect or want isn't doing a thing to help public safety. I've heard the administration talk about fraud. No, not the 43 fraud convictions the president has or the $43 million fraudsters the president has pardoned, but instead saying that ICE is here to look for fraud somehow. You know, we work with federal government all the time, and if the federal government wants to help us with forensic accountants, we're open to that conversation. But these ICE agents who are engaged in the behavior that they're engaged in are not helping public safety at all. Immigration enforcement agents aren't trained to investigate fraud, and randomly stopping people in the street because you don't like their accent isn't going to stop fraud. So enforcing federal immigration law and fighting fraud are just pretexts for this surge. The real reason, it's no secret. Donald Trump and his administration have been targeting people, cities, and states that don't agree with them politically. He singled out Minnesota countless times. He's called us corrupt and crooked. He's attacked our funding to the tune of billions of dollars, which we are challenging. And we fought back, of course. He's attacked programs that Minnesotans rely on and tried to shut them down and pay taxes for. And he's attacked Minnesotans with despicable, racist, xenophobic language. The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't seem to like our state very much. But what's that about? He doesn't like our best in the nation, safe and secure elections. And sometimes he doesn't like who we choose in them. Just last week, Trump claimed that he won Minnesota 3 times, when in fact, he's never won Minnesota. He doesn't like how we take care of each other or how we make sure our kids have enough to eat. He doesn't like the strength that immigrant communities bring to our state. And he doesn't seem to like that we protect our neighbors no matter where they were born. In short, the Trump administration's decision to target Minnesota and Twin Cities is motivated by a desire to retaliate against Trump's perceived political opponents, who are the people of the state of Minnesota and Twin Cities, rather than any good faith concerns about immigration enforcement, public safety, or law enforcement. In conclusion, I didn't have the pleasure and the benefit of knowing Renee Nicole Good, but her friends and family knew her as someone who was kind, someone who loved her family deeply, and someone willing to stand up for her neighbors. That sounds like the Minnesota that I know. The administration wants to paint false political narratives about us, but we know who we are and we know our rights. The Constitution gives Minnesota the sovereign authority to protect health and well-being of every single person who lives on our borders. The Constitution gives us the right to vote for who we want, pray however we want, and be whoever we want without fear of being racially profiled, assaulted, or killed in our own communities. We're going to defend those rights because as much as they like to believe it, DHS is not above the law,
That's right.
and the people of Minnesota are certainly not beneath it. Let me now bring forward my mayor, the mayor where I go home at night and is doing a wonderful job protecting our city, Mayor Jacob Fry.
Thank you, Attorney General Ellison, for your leadership and your incredible team's work around this issue. Thank you to Mayor Herr of St. Paul for your partnership. These are not normal times. And so the response that we are asking for from the judicial system and from the courts requires that we file suit at this particular moment. What we are seeing right now is not normal immigration enforcement. We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day. You've seen the videos. At times, there are as many as 50 agents arresting one person.
Mhm.
The scale is wildly disproportionate and has nothing to do with keeping people safe. In Minneapolis, we've done work extensively with the federal government under multiple administrations to keep people in our city safe. We have worked with the DEA, the ATF, the FBI, the Attorney General's office, as well as the U.S. Attorney's office to successfully drive down crime in our city. We've seen the results of that work, but let's be clear. The stated reason of this federal government for bringing in this full invasion of ICE and border control is not safety. If it were safety, there would be other mechanisms to achieve safety. By the way, crime is down in virtually every category, in virtually every neighborhood of this city. If this were about fraud, then you'd see an invasion perhaps of accountants. But that's not what you see. What you see is people being indiscriminately taken off our streets. Discrimination only takes place to the extent that a determination has made that somebody is Somali or is Latino, or at least they look that way, and then there is virtually no discrimination thereafter. Here's the thing. You can't indiscriminately take people off our streets, American citizens off our streets. You cannot drag pregnant women through the snow. You're not allowed to take teenagers out of their car and detain them when they are in fact American citizens. That is against the law in every state. That is against our United States Constitution. And we're feeling the impact here in Minneapolis. Schools have closed. People are afraid to go to work, shop, or seek medical care. 911 calls are up. Police resources are indeed stretched thin. We have approximately 600 officers in the city of Minneapolis. Mayor Herr has approximately 600 officers in the city of St. Paul. The number of ICE agents and border control are now in the thousands. They are in the thousands. If the goal was immigration enforcement, if the goal were simply to look for people that are undocumented, Minneapolis and St. Paul would not be the place where you would go. There are countless more people that are undocumented in Florida and Texas and Utah. Why are they in these much smaller cities in the middle of the Midwest? The answer is very clear. It is politics. Florida and Texas and Utah are Republican states. The reason that Minnesota and Minneapolis are being targeted is because you've got a Democratic governor, a Democratic attorney general, and you got Democratic mayors. We are doing everything possible to keep our cities safe through this unprecedented time. And at the same time, we have police officers that are tired. We've seen damage substantially because we're now having to pay a ton of overtime. Millions of dollars of emergency overtime for law enforcement. Emergency operations have been activated across our city and state agencies, pulling focus on daily core services that we, by the way, are tasked with providing. Local police officers are being diverted from the very work that we need to be doing, and small businesses are losing significant revenue, with some worried that they may not survive this at all. People are scared to take their kids into school or daycare, to go into work. They're going to have difficulty paying rent. There is no doubt in my mind the kind of action that the federal government is taking is not just mean-spirited. It's unconstitutional, and every one of us need to be standing up. Let me give you another example. Just last week, a group of our city's public works employees were stopped by ICE agents. 3 of the 4 employees were not white. The ICE agents asked to see the IDs of the 3 non-white employees and didn't even bother to ask the white employee for the identification. Minneapolis is being targeted because we stand up for our neighbors and we welcome immigrants because we believe in the law. And as I said, frankly, because we are in a blue city, in a blue state. Donald Trump should know, as long as federal agents are in our city acting unconstitutionally against our neighbors, we will continue to push back with everything we got. And let me just take a moment to say how grateful I am to the residents of our city and of our state. We are not victims in the city of Minneapolis. We've got heroes that are standing up for each other, that are standing by the neighbors that they love. And one thing that I can tell you for certain is that we aren't backing down. We don't retreat in Minneapolis. We don't back down in Minnesota. We stand up against bullies. And right now, what we are asking for is an intervention from the court to push back on this unconstitutional conduct, pure and simple. I'll now turn it off to Mayor Herr.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm proud to stand with Mayor Frey and Attorney General Ellison to fight for our residents. This federal occupation of our cities needs to end immediately. Federal law enforcement is racially profiling our residents, creating mass chaos, and undermining the relationship between local government and our communities. We will not stand idly by and watch this happen. With this collective action, we are taking a firm stance to tell federal law enforcement that this cannot happen in our country. It cannot happen in our state, and it cannot happen in St. Paul. Federal law enforcement is going far beyond what they can and should be doing to enforce immigration laws. They are endangering our community's safety, straining our resources, and sowing distrust. While we know we can't control federal agents, we will pull every lever we have to fight back in every way that we can. They've come into St. Paul and needlessly invaded our neighborhoods and homes. They're targeting us based on what we look and sound like. Our residents are scared, and as local officials, we have a responsibility to act. I want to thank Attorney General Ellison and Mayor Frey for taking a united stance for the people of Minnesota. And to our immigrant and refugee communities, let me be clear. You are a vital part of our city. You are loved, and you are wanted, and you are important to the fabric of our state.
That's right.
As a refugee who came to this country, this is the state that welcomed my grandparents here in the late 70s, allowed our family to break the cycle of poverty in one generation, educated us, allowed us to build wealth, and within one generation have a new family members that are educated and a part of this economy and this workforce. That we need to continue to make sure that our state stays that, and that can't happen if ICE continues to run amok of our city and our state. And so we cannot let this federal administration divide us. We need to come together now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
So now we have a few minutes for questions. I want to acknowledge the vital presence of President Elliott Payne of our Minneapolis City Council here on behalf of all of the council members, I think, in the council, representing the council. Thank you for your presence here, sir. And I also want to say thank you to all of our staff members who've worked so hard to prepare us for this moment. They all are very, very critical to the work that we do every day, and we're grateful to them as well. And they may help us answering some of your questions. We have about 15 minutes for questions. And so I'll select the first person who I see. Tom?
Attorney General Ellison, there's been some success in getting the National Guard out of some states with lawsuits like this, but that was over a question of what the role of the National Guard is. It's pretty clear what ICE's role is. Is that going to make this legal challenge more difficult?
I don't think so, because ICE, as I think the Mayor Fry said very well, ICE has a statutory responsibility to do a certain job. Where our argument is they are exceeding that dramatically in unconstitutional, unlawful ways, violating our First and 10th Amendment rights, our equal sovereignty principle, and provisions of the Administrative Procedures Act. They have to obey the law themselves as they carry forth their statutory duties. We argue they're not doing that. They have to do they have to operate within the law and the Constitution. Yes, sir.
A.G. Ellison, A.C. Thompson from PBS Frontline.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Is this litigation aimed at restraining the use of crowd-controlled weapons, less lethal weapons? Our whole crew got pepper sprayed today by federal agents. Are you aiming to do anything about that?
Well, one thing I'd like to ask you to do is to make a complaint and make sure people know what happened to you and your crew. Part of what our case is about is First Amendment protection. We believe that the federal government is persecuting the state of Minnesota because of our political views. And that goes, and look, the First Amendment, the press is protected by the First Amendment, and it's vitally important in this moment when freedom of the press and every First Amendment right is under a threat by the federal government. So I'm going to ask you to let us know what happened. But yeah, we're trying to restore lawful conduct and make sure that the federal government operates within the boundaries of the law, which they're required to do. Yes, sir.
This is really something that's obviously really ramped up in the last week.
Right.
What kind of timeline can we expect on this suit? What are you looking at? What's your office kind of expecting here?
Well, we filed a lawsuit already. It's on file right now.
As far as results.
Well, it's hard to predict exactly what the court schedule will be, but we are anticipating quick action. I don't know, would any of my team members Brian, you want to respond to that?
Brian Carter, Special Counsel to the Attorney General. I don't know if we filed quite yet, but we do have a motion for a temporary restraining order that's going to be filed today. We're going to ask that the court hear that motion tomorrow morning. There's another similar motion in a separate but related lawsuit that's scheduled for that time. We're going to try and piggyback on that, and we're going to be asking for immediate relief.
Brian Carter, everybody. Way in the back.
St. Paul have any specifics on overtime for police officers in the way that Minneapolis had some stats?
Yeah, and we do know that we have had we've had to open our command center in order to monitor the city. We've had to have all of our officers in uniform, so that we do have information as well. And we'll be sharing more of that information in the days to come as it relates to this lawsuit.
Are those overtime costs likely to reach into the millions if this continues?
Yeah. Question is, are those overtime costs for Minneapolis police and St. Paul police likely to reach into the millions? The answer is absolutely. We have normal core functions that we are tasked with doing on a daily basis. We are required to respond to 911 calls. We are trying to prevent murders from happening and carjackings from taking place. And by the way, the work of our police has been driving down those numbers substantially. Our police officers have performed admirably because they're not just doing their day-to-day job. They're also responding to countless 911 calls that people are being kidnapped, that agents in unmarked uniforms in unmarked cars are simply taking people off the streets that are American citizens. They're required to do the work to keep the peace. Our police officers are doing the work to keep the peace and to keep people safe. With 600 officers, we can't do all of those things all of the time. Not to mention, our officers are human beings, and therefore there is a point where they get tired. And when we've canceled all days off, when our chief is working tirelessly, and he deserves a ton of credit here too, where we've got officers that are working incredibly long hours and long shifts. The truth is that when you get to a certain point, you start making mistakes. Not because you're a bad cop, but because you're a human being. And so we need relief. We're asking the court for it. But the damage that we are suffering right now in Minneapolis is not limited to overtime costs. It's schools shutting down. It's businesses closing. It's people being afraid to go out and get groceries and therefore are going hungry. It's their inability to get money so that they're unable to pay rent. there is a snowball effect that is happening right here. And it's not just because we're in Minnesota and there's a lot of snow. The snowball effect is because what ICE is doing is intentional. This is intentionally putting us in a very difficult position that is not pro-business and is not pro-safety. The only thing that I can see it being is pro-politics.
Mayor, people have been concerned about some of the tactics that have been used in the streets. We talked a couple of protesters who thought some very heavy-handed use of force toward them. Are you guys concerned about what you're hearing from the public in terms of not only when you talk about the pepper ball spray or how people are being tackled and handled or what you saw at the high school? Can you elaborate on what you guys are hearing about?
Well, I'll let the mayors jump in here, but I can tell you that this whole lawsuit is partially driven, not exclusively, but partially driven by exactly what you just said. And again, look, ICE was operating here before this surge. We didn't file a lawsuit before.
That's right.
This is because of this surge. And quite honestly, it is because of the accumulation of so many stories that are just so far out of the range of normal. Some of y'all saw the videotape at Target. Some of y'all saw the videotape at Roosevelt High School. And I can tell you how many people who've called me and said, I am afraid to go to work. And I'm not talking about people who are non-citizens. I'm saying citizens, because when a woman like Renee Good gets shot down, then everybody, citizens, non-citizens, are terrified. And I'll leave it to the mayors to fill in there.
I will say that the question is if we're hearing about it, we are absolutely. I mean, I think that we are really lucky here in our state, and specifically Minnesota, St. Paul, Minneapolis, is that we have a strong network of community organizers who've been working together. We hear almost every instance that happens, whether it's text to us personally and we're looking into it, or whether it's coming into our neighborhood groups, we are hearing it and we are seeing it and we are looking into. Every time I get one, I inquire into it to see. But I think that what's more important in all of this is that it's not just the tactics that are being used. It's the attack on the American people who are citizens. I wasn't born here. I'm carrying my ID with me. I'm carrying my passport card and my ID with me all the time because I don't know when I'm going to be detained, when I'm going to be approached. The fact is that it doesn't have to, the tactics doesn't even at this point really matter, right? It's the fact that we are being attacked as American citizens right now, and we are hearing of it and we are inquiring into it every single time we get something sent to us.
Last question.
A lot of lawsuits against the federal government that have been ongoing, led by your office. We also do have the backdrop of fraud investigations happening as well. Can you just speak about how resources are being doled out in the Attorney General's office and who's being dedicated to fighting the federal government?
Our Medicaid fraud unit is hard at work. We've prosecuted and convicted over 300 people since I've been Attorney General for Medicaid fraud, and other people in our office who do agency representation. They're working hard, but but the people who work on what I call federal accountability, they're busy too, because the federal government has tried to deprive our state of money that we're entitled to by statute, that has been appropriated to our state. And if we don't fight for it, we won't get it. And that will deprive the people of the state of Minnesota of resources and money that they deserve. And I'm talking about things like SNAP benefits, housing benefits, child care benefits, all kinds of benefits, National Institute of Health benefits, FEMA benefits that they've tried to unconstitutionally deprive us from. So do we have resource pressure? Yeah, my folks are working really hard, harder than they should have to. But we can walk and chew gum, and we're fighting fraud every single day. And let me just say this about fraud. Anybody who steals from a program designed to help poor people is no friend of mine. Right. And I'm all good to hold them accountable. And, the federal government, they're doing all this stuff that we don't need them to do. I wish they'd do some more things we do need them to do. Now, I'm not talking about local federal officials. They're doing their job. We worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI to fight fraud, and I'm very glad with their partnership. What I'm referring to is the substance of this lawsuit right now. This is not what we need. We don't need this, but we need all the help we can get to help make sure that every dollar that the generous people of Minnesota devote to helping others gets to those others.
Just one more, if I may.
here. Are you confident that DHS and the federal government would abide by the judge's orders? And what would be the next step
Yes, I
if
am.
they do not?
No, I believe that they will abide by the orders because I believe that anybody who stands below an American flag, lifts up their hand and swears an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States will abide by the lawful orders of a court. And if they don't, I want everybody in this room to know that they are the ones who are expressing contempt for the rule of law. Now, having said that, you asked the what if question. Well, you know, there are ample ways to make a miscreant violator of a court order obey that court order. One of them is a contempt of court, but let's not jump there. Let's expect good conduct and obedience to law, and that's what we expect. That's what we expect we're going to get. And I think there's a possibility that Mayor Fry wanted to talk a little bit more about what your citizens are going through, or maybe you covered that already.
I can add on.
Yeah, but I just think well, you want to go for it?
Just in general.
Yeah, just like what people are dealing with, man.
Yeah. I mean, we don't use the word invasion lightly. What we are seeing is thousands, plural, thousands of federal agents coming into our city. And yeah, they're having a tremendous impact on life, and it's a negative one. And whether that's kids that are trying to get to school or businesses that are trying to open, that's police officers that are responding to 911 calls. It's just about being able to conduct daily life right here in our city. And look, this is not about fraud. When you have a fraudster, you investigate, you charge, you prosecute, you hold the person accountable, and then they get put in jail as an individual. They get put in jail as an individual. You do not hold an entire community or an entire city accountable for the actions of the fraudsters. That's not a novel concept. That's just the way this works in American society, and we should be abiding by that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And let me say thank you, Mayor Herr. Let me say thank you to the men and women of the independent press of America.
Yep.
The reality is that the work you do is critically important to get the word out to the people, and we are grateful for it. And with that, we're going to conclude. But I'm
As violent anti-ICE protests continue to flood Minnesota, DHS is federal agent.
Matt Finn joins
officer who fired the deadly shot at Renee Good seems to show Renee's wife taunting the agent moments before telling her wife to drive off.
I said, go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
out of the car. Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Oh!
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is standing by the ICE officer who fired the shots and killed Renee Good in what Noem calls domestic terrorism in Mayor Fry's city.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground. This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her vehicle. She weaponized it, and he defended his life and those colleagues around him and the public.
Also, new video leading up to the moments of Renee Good's shooting death by an ICE agent on Wednesday. Video appears to show Renee Good's SUV parked in the street, honking the horn, and possibly taunting officers, even dancing in the driver's seat. Now, Border Patrol tells us it's dangerous for agents to be blocked in by a car because there are so many anti-ICE agitators who quickly surround them. Also, a new video from late yesterday apparently shows federal agents using crowd control tactics, firing tear gas and pepper balls at protesters outside the federal building where ICE detainees are being held. An independent photographer who was there says protesters tried to stop traffic in and out of the federal facility. Now, Fox News did a ride-along with Border Patrol here. We saw cars trailing agents for miles around the city, even after the shooting death of Renee Good, one car even intentionally blocking in federal agents. At one point, Border Patrol warned 2 women to stop trailing them.
If I continually see you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, you have a very high probability of making a really bad decision and being arrested today, okay?
I think I'm making
I'm not.
the right decision.
So you heard Mayor Fry say that there are thousands and thousands of people protesting and resisting against ICE here. During the ride-along, we saw that in real time. You know, as soon as these Border Patrol agents get out of their car to apprehend anyone or question anyone, they're surrounded by people with those ear-piercing whistles. And so there are neighborhood watches here for immigration agents, and they are in full effect in Minneapolis right now. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, thanks, Matt. What's happened is unacceptable, and what they're obstructing, because ICE has released some of the people that they have arrested that they claim to be watching these protesters. So someone was convicted of homicide, a Burmese national. They got arrested by ICE. A Guatemalan illegal alien in the country, wanted for homicide, already committed homicide, was arrested. Attempted homicide from someone from Sudan. A Somalian convicted of manslaughter. A Mexican illegal convicted of homicide. 2 counts of homicide, Sierra Leone. 2 conviction of homicide, alliteration. And Sudan national convicted of homicide, rape against a child. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And these guys that are in the middle of the street, including, tragically, the woman that lost her life the other day because she tried to ram an officer, are all preventing ICE from doing their job, arresting those people.
So they're protecting those criminals
100%.
instead of protecting the law enforcement who's out there trying to make Minnesota safer. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, she announced an updated restriction on the congressional visits to these ICE detention facilities because she says when these lawmakers go in unannounced, it creates unsafe conditions for the lawmakers and for the ICE agents. And she said they're all trying to get in these detention centers. It's a circus-like publicity stunt rather than legitimate oversight. So lawmakers now, if they want to go into one of the ICE facilities, they have the right to do that. They just have to notify a week in advance, 7 days in advance. And on Saturday, there were 3 House Democrats, including Ilhan Omar and Angie Craig and Kelly Morrison, who are Democrats from Minnesota. They were denied entry into a facility in Minnesota. And this is what Ilhan Omar said.
When people are disappeared in the darkness, American democracy dies. Congresswoman, and it is really important for every single person in this country to understand that they are not only disappearing people who have committed crimes, who are in this country undocumented. They are disappearing U.S. citizens.
Of course, all that, those are just lies. And Ilhan Omar and other politicians who have fomented all of this and encouraged people to go out and get involved and disrupt these ICE actions, I would argue have blood on their hands. This is, these agents are, they're not there because they feel like it or because they want to be there. They're there because they have a constitutional responsibility to enforce the law. That is why they are there. And if Ilhan Omar has a problem with the laws, she can go and change the laws. Lawrence, you spoke earlier with former Senator Kyrsten Sinema, and I thought that she had a very basic but a very important point. about the two sides, about the executive branch and the legislative branch working out their differences.
I'm an Arizona native. And so the work that the Department of Homeland Security does in Arizona is so important because this is real for us. This matters to us every single day. And ICE, they do a very important function. They help catch the guys who are very dangerous, folks who are rapists and murderers, and get them out of the country. Congress is not new, and neither is DC, to circus-like publicity stunts, right?
That is
We've seen those for years. And look, both parties engage in that activity. The reality is if you want to do good oversight, you work with the co-equal branches of government and find a solution that allows you to do oversight and also allow those men and women to do their jobs.
I would say real quickly, Ainsley, is that my concern right now is less with the elected officials and their stunts, because she is right. Both parties do stunt. But the elected officials are giving marching orders to these protesters that are breaking the law and putting themselves in very dangerous situations. When you start impeding, when you start ramming at officers, you put yourself and your life at danger. There's certain protocols that you need to conduct yourself when you're approached with law enforcement, especially when you've already broken the law. So you can't go around the whole day following law enforcement, using your vehicle to obstruct. And then when a cop comes, by the way, those cops didn't even have their guns drawn. One of the cops that was actually fired the shot had his film recording what was going on. So if they come to you, peaceful, say, look, if you keep doing this, you're going to get yourself arrested. Maybe you should comply with those commands. That's not saying you can't protest, but go on the sidewalk. Don't be in the middle of the street.
Well, the White House, Abigail Jackson says Somali fraudsters have stolen millions, it's actually billions, from hardworking Minnesota taxpayers, while Democrats looked the other way. Now they are desperately trying to distract from their failures with political stunts.
Mm-hmm. So true. Truly incredible.
I'm Steve Doocy.
Now, Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino is in Minneapolis. Here is more of what happened. And as Garrett just reported, this is the kind of scene that you're seeing on the ground in many areas in Minneapolis. So we're going to let this play out a little bit so you can get a sense of the tension in this store. Watch.
Out of here. You're a coward. Hold on, babe. I'm on the phone. Get out of here, you stupid. You're a coward piece of shit. And if you didn't have a gun or a badge, I would beat the shit out of you.
Greg Bavino, Commander, joins me now. Thank you very much for being here, sir. You know, I mean, a lot of things go through my mind when I see that video. I'm just curious what your reaction was. You know, how does that feel for you when you walk through there and people are yelling that kind of language at you and in your face and in the face of your agents? And what was their response when you all got back into your vehicle? Did you talk about what happened in there?
Martha, thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
That reaction that you saw there at that store is something that has become very common here in Minneapolis and Minnesota. And we do talk about that. But one of the things that we talked about that I want you and the viewers to know is this is an operation of contrasts. As you know, we just got back from Louisiana, from that fantastic operation in Louisiana. This didn't happen in Louisiana. Violence did not happen in Louisiana. The fantastic leadership of Governor Landry, Colonel Hodges from the Highway Patrol. But we're here in Minneapolis. Let me give you a statistic here, Martha. Well over 20 assaults on federal officers in 3 days here in Minnesota. In Louisiana, I counted one for that entire 30-day operation. So a vast contrast. I can only think that Governor Walz and Mayor Frey, you just had Mayor Frey's speech on there, they're responsible for what you saw in that store yesterday and for that violence that our federal officers confront every single day here in Minneapolis.
We have a live shot here that we can take this full so people can see what's going on in the streets. It's a similar sort of tense scene between protesters and agents. Has this accelerated? I would imagine it has quite a bit since the agent killed Miss Good in her car in that tense situation.
Martha, the situation has accelerated. And again, I go back to the Mayor Frey, Governor Walz, and what they're saying about that. They're not trying to tamp down violence or anything else. They're actually fomenting violence and ramping the violence up. They're supporting these people.
We have a soundbite from Mayor Frey, excuse me, but let's play this so people get a sense of what you're talking about. Let's watch.
You had a person that was definitively trying to just get out of there. They were trying to leave the scene. That is not a person that's trying to run an ICE agent over. You have a person that is trying to protect our city, to look out for our neighbors.
You know what strikes me, and I want to just go straight into the Ilhan Omar soundbite here. These people are apparently in Miss Good's mind. They know what she's thinking, and they know what's happening, even though this investigation is very much underway. Let's play Ilhan Omar here.
She feels scared. She tries to turn the wheel away. And then you see the other officer who can clearly see the car is move towards the front of the car, which if they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car.
Your reaction to that?
Martha, is Ilhan and Governor Frey, they apparently are now experts on tense, dangerous scenes out in the street now. I tell you, it's reprehensible to hear that. We had an ICE agent who did not even know he was going to be in that situation that was confronted with a 4,000-pound missile barreling straight at him. It's funny they don't seem to mention that, Martha. And it's
but you
sad
hear her
that
say,
they,
let me ask you
take
about
that
this,
route.
Commander Bovino. I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. So she says, Omar says, and I guess she's a crime scene analyst now. She's watching this video breakdown. But she says, why did he get in front of the vehicle? Doesn't he know he's supposed to have done this for 10 years? Doesn't he know that's not a good idea?
And Martha, what she doesn't seem to realize, or maybe she realizes it and just doesn't want to talk about it, but these scenes now with hundreds of agitators and rioters put those officers and agents in a very difficult situation. It's not just a vehicle that they're up against or one subject, but it's dozens, if not hundreds. So there's a different scene there that they're having to react to. And that scene is 360 degrees around those agents. Very difficult. I've been out there with those agents on the ground for several days now. It can be chaotic, and I'm not going to second guess an ICE agent that was trying to protect his life and or the lives of others.
But the investigation is ongoing. Is that correct?
It is. Our partners there at the Federal Bureau of Investigation are doing a fantastic job, as they always do, to get those facts and put that investigation together.
All right, let's put this up real quick. These are 5 images of some of the individuals that were arrested as part of this Minneapolis operation. Wednesday, these individuals were apprehended, according to the reporting here. So you see the names across the bottom, and I'll just tell you that from left to right, you have a child sex assault conviction, registered sex offender, attempted sex assault conviction, attempted criminal sex conduct conviction, and possession of opium conviction. So these are all individuals with perhaps the exception of the second person in there who does not say there's been a conviction, there's a charge in that case. These individuals were all rounded up in Minneapolis as part of the operation that we've been watching.
Yes, Martha. And what's even more noteworthy is, in addition to those 5, this happens every day. Those type of individuals are walking the streets every day in broad daylight. Those ICE agents, Border Patrol agents are up against that every single day. And as they arrest those individuals, we have members of the community, some of those weaker-minded constituents that fall victim to Walz and Frey's rhetoric, actually coming against us as we arrest those individuals. That's amazing to me. Do they want registered sex, child rapists?
Yeah, I guess they want this
streets?
attempted sex assault conviction person living next door to them or in their neighborhood. We're going to talk about this later in the show with our panel, with Yemisi and Noah coming up. But here's just an image. Last night it was sort of an underlying thread through the Golden Globes last night. And a lot of the celebrities were wearing these buttons that say "Be Good" in honor of Renee Good. I was just curious what your reaction is to that, Commander, before we do that segment.
Sure. Where are the pins for Jacqueline Nungare, Molly Tibbetts, Kate Steinle, Officer Singh, Miss Marin, and all those other individuals that were killed, maimed, and raped by illegal aliens? And what about the angel moms? How about an angel mom pin? They never seem to talk about that. I've got a problem with that.
Yeah. Well put. Good argument. Commander Bovino, thank you very much. Good to have you here today. Thank you, sir.
It's good to see you, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, let's bring in the White House Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, joining us now live from the White House. Caroline, welcome to you. Welcome back.
Thank you, guys. Great to be with you.
All right, so let's start there. Can we protect these ICE officers lawfully carrying out their duties?
Well, the administration fully intends to. President Trump and the entire Trump administration stands firmly with the brave men and women of ICE, who are everyday Americans who put on their uniform every day to protect our communities and to carry out lawful law enforcement operations. That's what's been happening on the ground in Minnesota, and that's what's been taking place in every community across the country. And I just want to zoom out, and you see these agitators who have been violently protesting and harassing ICE agents all weekend long. What are they out there protesting for? They are actively trying to impede law enforcement operations and end the President Trump's mandate to deport illegal alien criminals from our communities. And it's Fox News' very own Bill Malugin, who had exceptional reporting in the last few days. These are illegal alien criminal pedophiles, murderers, rapists, some of the worst criminals who, if given the chance, would commit those same heinous crimes to the protesters in the streets of Minneapolis right now. So short answer is yes, of course. We are surging resources to Minneapolis, and the Trump administration is going to deliver on President Trump's mandate to remove violent illegal aliens from our communities and make America safe again.
That list of apprehensions got the attention of even some Democrats. Michael LaRosa, who's going to be with us next hour, put out on X, WTF is Minnesota thinking about trying to protect people like this.
That's right.
In terms of what happened last Wednesday and the officer who was involved in the shooting, does the president stand fully behind that officer, that agent? Does the president believe his actions were justified?
Absolutely. And I think the more evidence that comes out shows the officer was justified, and President Trump was right about this all along. And who was wrong? The Democrat Party and the mainstream media, who despicably have been lying about this officer and about this case from the very beginning. And they have had to change their story and their narrative, because at first you heard Democrats, including the mayor of Minneapolis, saying that the car never struck the officer and the lethal force was unjustified. Now, of course, there is plentiful video evidence to show that the officer was struck by the car, that this deranged lunatic woman was trying to ram him over with her vehicle and was using that vehicle as a weapon, which justifies domestic terrorism. And unfortunately, we are seeing these instances play out in American communities across the country, where you have these organized, paid antagonists who are part of these groups that are actively, unlawfully impeding lawful law enforcement operations. They are harassing and targeting ICE agents, trying to make it impossible, again, for them to carry out their duties. That's what was happening in this case. That officer used his training. I understand that he's been on the force and he's been protecting American communities for many, many years. He's an experienced and brave individual who unfortunately had to make a very tough decision and was put in that position by these paid agitators who have been doing this all over the country.
Caroline, tomorrow we expect the president to deliver a message on the economy, a programming alert for our viewers. We believe that will be happening. Is it 2 o'clock Eastern time or 2 o'clock local? Detroit. Well, it is Detroit. It's Eastern time, 2 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll carry that right here. What will his message be now, just months from the midterm elections? What really will he dial into as his winning message on the economy?
Well, President Trump, since January 20th of last year, has been laser focused on making America affordable again. And he is doing just that. So tomorrow, he looks forward to traveling to the great state of Michigan, a state he won big, to not only tour a factory that produces Ford F-150s and is going to be hiring more and producing more trucks right here in the USA because of President Trump's effective tariff policies. But the president is also going to deliver an economic address where he's going to talk about all of the positive economic news that we continue to see as a result of his agenda. We have mortgage rates that are falling under 6% for the first time in years. Today, the national average of gasoline is the lowest that it's been in 5 years. We have core inflation at its lowest level in 5 years. And so with a little bit of patience, the American people are going to continue to see that the best is yet to come. President Trump has a proven economic formula that works. He delivered on it in his first term. He's delivering on it now. And in 2026, people in Michigan and in every state across the country are going to see more money in their pockets thanks to President Trump's working families tax cut that he signed into law last year. Those tax rebates will go into effect this year, and the average American, middle-class American, can look forward to up to $1,000 back into their wallets because of those signature tax cuts. So the best is yet to come. There's a lot of positive economic news out there. The president's not going to stop working. He has housing plans in the works. He has a healthcare plan in the works. And so you'll continue to hear from the president, and he'll continue to hit the road across the country to speak directly with the people he loves most, the American people.
All right, so that is tomorrow afternoon. And Programming Note will be carrying that speech live from Detroit. Then let's look ahead to Thursday, where it's just been announced that the president is going to be meeting with the Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado. The president said after Maduro was deposed and captured and brought to the United States that he didn't believe that Machado had the support within Venezuela to become at least the interim president. Her proxy, Edmundo Gonzalez, in the last election that they had in Venezuela, got more than 80% of the vote, according to some counts. Why did the president not believe she would have the support to become interim president?
Well, I think President Trump and his national security team made a realistic assessment of the reality on the ground in Venezuela. And that decision has turned out to be a good one, because look at what President Trump and his team have been able to accomplish in just a little over a week since the capture of the illegitimate dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who continues to sit in a jail cell in New York. Look at what has happened. We've had complete cooperation thus far from the interim authorities in Venezuela. You've seen the president has been able to cut a $500 billion energy deal. 31 million barrels of oil are now making their way to the United States to be sold. And that money is going into an account that is controlled by the United States government. I mean, the world has never seen such success like this before. And it's because of the creative thinking, but also the action of President Trump and his entire national security team. We also know the interim authorities in Venezuela have agreed to release their political prisoners, which is something the United States has wanted to see for quite some time. So we've seen a lot of cooperation thus far, and the president expects that to continue.
Final question on the independence of the Fed. There are some concerned at this moment based on the new actions by the Feds to open a probe into the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. President Trump has made it very clear how he feels about the Federal Reserve Chair and his actions while chairing the Fed. Can you assure independence of the Federal Reserve, and where will this be going next, this probe?
Well, look, as for the criminal probe, you'll have to ask the Department of Justice about that. They are in charge. I do know one thing is for sure. Jerome Powell has proven he's not very good at his job. As to whether he's a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find. And whether or not they do, I'd defer that to them.
And let's finish off, if we could, with Iran, because tomorrow the president is going to be meeting with his national security team. Reports are that he's going to be weighing options on what to do to push back against Iran killing innocent protesters, who are simply saying that they want a better economy, and some of them now are calling for regime change. The Speaker of Iran's parliament openly threatened the president over the weekend, calling him, quote, delusional, also saying, if you have the courage to come to Iran, we will discipline you, which many people might find quite laughable considering the beating that Iran took the last time the United States tangled with it. But the president also said that Iran called and said it wants to negotiate. Could you put a little more meat on the bones of that?
Well, sure, I'm happy to. Those comments you just referred to are laughable, and they are just from one member of the Iranian regime's alleged parliament. What I will tell you is that what the Iranian regime is saying publicly is quite different from the messages they are sending to the United States and the Trump administration privately. President Trump, as for him, he has always expressed that diplomacy is the first option, always has been, always will be. However, he is unafraid to use the lethal force and might of the United States military if and when he deems that necessary. And nobody knows that better than the Iranian regime. The greatest leverage the regime had just several months ago was their nuclear program, which President Trump and the United States military totally obliterated through Operation Midnight Hammer. And so what President Trump will do next, only he knows. So the world will have to keep waiting and guessing, and we will let him decide. I'm certainly not going to broadcast any future options or decisions from the president on national television.
All right. Caroline Levitt joining us live from the White House, our very own private White House press briefing. Thank you so much.
We always
Caroline.
appreciate that. Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here.
Okay, you guys, there you have it. Let me get to some of your comments. That was a lot. Good morning, Graham. How are you doing? The host is an American. I'm American. So, you guys, I played from the mayor in Minnesota, so you can hear what he had to say. He made it clear that they are a very blue state, a very democratic state. And I also wanted you to hear from the right, where we see the clips of what happened in Minnesota, what's happening with the ICE agents, the baiting, the rage baiting, the aggressiveness that they're getting in their faces, and the ICE agents have a right to defend themselves. Now, it's always sad, as I've said plenty of times before, for a person to lose their life. However, since when do we just jump in people's faces? Since when do we? And a lot of these people are paid agitators, paid protesters to try to make it seem as if the political right are violent. No, let law enforcement do their job. Donald Trump was put into this office to control the borders, take care of illegal immigration. It's okay to enter this country, enter it legally, and that's what's happening. So I played both sides. You can decide for yourself. You see the video footage I've shown you plenty of times from different angles, and I've played from Fox News, CNN, PBS, a lot of news stations. So I'll let you decide for yourself. No proof. I'm a paid. Okay. The woman committed several felonies, played stupid games, win stupid prizes. Right, Betel. Right. I don't like how they're painting her as this martyr. Be good. What's with the buttons? Be good. Stay home. Do what you have to do, and stop agitating these ICE agents who's out there already doing a dangerous job. You've seen the hostility. I showed you guys so many clips of it, what's happening with them. And it's insane. It is insane. There are federal agents. Let me go on mute real fast. I don't like what's happening over there, but let me show you. Hold on. Hang on, you guys. Because I'm going to keep saying the same thing. I'm going to keep telling you guys the same thing. They're being terrorized. These ICE agents are being terrorized over there. And then people want to play victim when they have to respond. That's all I'm saying. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for real quick. But I try not to play CNN because it's very edited. It's very, they only show you one side of the story. And it's not the complete story. So, let's see if I can find it for you. Let me show you this. There's a lot that's going on over there. Who's the aggressor? It's telling them to get back. Some of it's hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie. But they're going after these ICE agents, and these ICE agents have to defend themselves. It's pretty sad what's happening over there. She said water makes it worse. Okay. Whoa, guess water makes it first. I mean, it makes it worse, yeah. But I think it's sad what's happening over there. Damage Inc., yes. So I do try to show you guys and who looks like the aggressor. Finally, the ICE agents had to use tear gas. And it's that is not okay. That's not okay. They're preventing them from doing their job in a safe manner. And so the ICE agents have to do what they have to do. Why is it most elderly white people? Okay, I thought it was in Ireland. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, that's sweet. I guess they don't have jobs. You're an Uncle Ruckus, whatever. Okay. MAGA is protesting 20 million illegals. So what do you guys think about all that? So, you know, keep praying for this country. I'm going to continue to spread the truth. I'm going to continue to show you guys both sides of the story, and you can make your decisions for yourself. I'm not here to persuade you of anything. God bless America. I'm still black. Yep, I'm still black. I absolutely am black. That was brilliant of you. What's your point? Have I ever claimed to be any other race? Or did you feel like just saying something? I'm not sure what your angle was there. I wish I could find what I'm looking for. So, good luck with ICE. I won't have a problem with ICE. I'm an American-born woman. We need to find out who's paying these agitators. Matt, they put out a list. Let me find that list for you. But it won't be tonight because I have to, to go to sleep. My brain's getting tired. I think it's sad what's happening in Minnesota. It's sad. And it's sad that it took somebody losing their life. What about midterms? My dog just jumped out of the thing. I don't think ICE is going door to door. They have to have some type of information for them to be knocking on the doors. Exactly. And then you have the people on these apps that's warning people where ICE is, and they're really stopping them from doing their investigations. I don't understand it myself, but it's what's happening. And it's pretty sad, you know. I just think it's pretty sad what's happening, you guys, and I can't speak on it enough. All right. Fraud is bad. You see that the mayor said that fraud is separate from all this. They don't want to talk about fraud. They don't want to talk about that. They keep deflecting onto Donald Trump. And it's just ridiculous that they don't want to talk about that. But this lady is not a martyr. She's somebody that was interfering with the investigation, and she unfortunately lost her life, and that's just what happened. And the protests are where I live in Coachella. I'm from Coachella, and I would love to I don't know if I'm gonna go. I don't know. It's heavy. I want to show you guys the conditions down there. Look at this. So now the reason why I'm showing you that, even though they're making fun of them, is because look at how slippery the roads are there. You see? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell you my point of showing you this right now. So imagine as slippery and icy. Oh my God, I'm tired. As slippery and icy as those roads are, you have this vehicle coming towards you. The ICE agent is already losing their balance, and this, even though they're trying to downplay it, the car nicks the ICE agent. Nicks him. He can hardly hold his balance. You have this 400-ton. You have this vehicle coming towards you. The ICE agent has already had an incident before. He did what he had to do to protect himself. Now, I'm not saying again that he needed that amount of force, but he had seconds to make that decision. Those roads were slippery, icy, and he could have gotten hurt. Well, he shouldn't have been standing in front of the car. No video shows him standing in front of the car. Not one. I voted for Donald Trump to close the border, support the illegals, and drain the swamps. Not take over Venezuela. Okay, fair. Fair enough. Respect for ICE. Even ICE hates ICE. Okay, you guys. Nobody is talking to the other side in these cities. There's a lot that's going on, you guys. What else do you think about it? I think I showed you guys both sides. I think. Which one? And these protests are going on all around. You see? All right. Most Americans are middle of the roaders. All right, you guys. Y'all have any final thoughts for me? God bless America. I'm praying for our country. I'm praying that the Republicans win the midterm elections. It's going to be really important because that's going to be who controls Congress. If Donald Trump does not win midterm, or the Republicans do not maintain majority in Congress, then it's going to be hard for Donald Trump to pass laws, because that's how important voting is for the midterm elections. Vote, get out there, let your voice be heard, and just I pray that America stays great. Great nation being destroyed from within, politician, whatever. All right, you guys. I'll see y'all later. We need ICE respect the men. What is it? We need ICE respect the men and the women of ICE. That's right. Look into the real history of Donald Trump, #1, right, Hugh, right? So we're going to see what's happening with this lawsuit in Minnesota. That was the point of the stream. Sad she can't get justice, and that's okay. Her, okay. I love President Trump. Impeachment, respect law enforcement. Lionel, that's right. Lionel. We have some like-minded people in the chat, and we have some that disagree. Thanks for the stream, beautiful lady. Thank you. Politicians never lie. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. All right, you guys, I'm going to lay it down. I will see you guys later today. What inspires me? What inspires me is my love for the country I served for this country. I was in the military. I served because I love this country. And that's why I do these streams, because I want the truth to be heard. I want the truth to be heard. I'm tired of the Republican Party being demonized, being lied upon. And I just think that information needs to be shared so we can have a conversation. That's what inspires me. Thank you, conversing with. Thank you, Drew. Yeah, I went to the military, then I went to college. If it wasn't for me wanting to go to college, I probably would still be in the military. But I still served my country. All right, you guys. I would love to have more conversations, and I like to just show you guys the clips. I'd like to just let you guys decide for yourself, and I look for clips that will sum it all up and that's unedited, just so you guys can see and judge for yourself. I don't like fear mongering or anything like that, and these streams are not to divide us, but hopefully we can have conversations respectfully, be respectful, you know, and that's just how it is. Oh, thank you for your service, Mike. Thank you for your service. That's right. We decide. You decide. Thank you for the sub, Ronald. I appreciate you. You guys. And again, I'm not trying to throw my beliefs on you, but I'm going to believe what I see. I'm going to make my own decisions. And we voted for Donald Trump to protect the borders. He's protecting the borders, but American citizens are standing in the way. Paid agitators are standing in the way. And that's not okay. That's not okay. And they're so aggressive and crazy with it. You look, I showed you guys these protests. They don't look civil. It looks as if they're fanatical. They're fanatics out there. And there's nothing wrong with a peaceful protest, but a peaceful protest is not spitting at ICE agents, standing in their way, yelling at them in their face. That's not peaceful. All right. With that being, you got my attention with everything you said out there. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. They do look almost orchestrated. And if you guys disagree with me, that's okay too, because it's called a conversation. You guys see, I'll let everybody rock out as long as they were, even if they weren't that respectful, I'll let the comments stay. Want to know why? I like to show which side is being the disrespectful ones. I like to show that if you can't reason without insulting, then you really don't have a point to reason about. All right. I love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Good night, you guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.